Hello, everybody. Angel here from Positive Gems Dog Training. We are February 27th today, and today is a very exciting day. It is International Polar Bear Day, so I have an extremely special guest joining me today that knows a thing or two about polar bears. So she will be answering some questions and giving us some information regarding polar bears. So Amy Braxendell is the animal care team leader at the Cochrane Polar Bear Habitat here in Cochrane, Ontario. So Amy, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been working with polar bears? How long have you been working at the Polar Bear Habitat? And a little bit about what you do there.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been working here at the Habitat for 5 years now. Almost 6 years actually. I am from Australia originally, but I've been in Canada for about 8 years now, and so most of my time here has been with bears. I was with black and brown bears in a rehab type role before this, but yeah, so this is my first polar bears and I'm absolutely addicted to them. So we function as a rescue and rehabilitation facility here, and so that doesn't necessarily always mean just cubs from the wild. That can mean bears from other facilities that may not have a home there anymore, or just somewhere who's looking for a little bit more space, a little bit more of a natural habitat for their bears. And so we aim to bring them up to, their healthiest, best care that they can be. And then we just give them the life that they deserve, really. We have about 24 acres of natural space here. It is minus 40 degrees Celsius this morning. So it is perfect polar bear weather where we are. We're only about 250 kilometers south of the very southern tip of the James Bay, which is where the most southern polar bears live. So we're very close to polar bear territory.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. I wasn't aware that we were that close. So that's really interesting. But I guess there's quite the difference there for you. This isn't even part of my questions, but being from Australia and working, in the warmer temperatures to jumping to polar bears, that must have been an adjustment a little bit for you.
Yeah, it was a little bit, but I don't know. I find the cold easier because, you just rug up, put enough layers on. The heat is what I can't deal with. Even though Cochrane is pretty much subarctic, we still do get very warm temperatures in the summertime. It's a short summer, but we do get up to, 30, 32 degrees. So it can get pretty hot here, and we are in bug central. So
true.
I
True.
I would take the cold and the snow over the bugs any day. Any locals around here will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not that far from you here in Timmins, so yeah, I could definitely relate to the bug situation. Great. So tell us a little bit about what your job is with the polar bears. Like, what are you? What do you do with the polar bears?
So as the animal care staff, there are 3 of us, and our job is to attend to every whim and need of our bears. So that's the really obvious things like providing a proper diet, providing a clean, enriching environment for them. Veterinary care is also incredibly important. Polar bears are quite sturdy creatures, and they're not prone to many sicknesses or illnesses, but it still is really important that we, stay on top of their vet care. Because these bears, although we do have 24 acres of space for them, including a natural lake which freezes over, we still do need to provide them with lots of enrichment. So that can be mental and physical enrichment, and that comes in so many different forms. We do have 5 separate enclosures here, so pretty much daily we'll move them around so they can be in a different space. Sometimes they might be housed together, sometimes they might be separate, and that's really incredible mental enrichment for them to have their conspecifics around them. And then physical enrichment, getting them moving, making sure we're encouraging those natural behaviors. So providing different types of toys and activities, things for them to do. It is also very important that they have a strong and trusting bond with us. Our biggest bear is 1,160 pounds, and he is a bit of a gentle giant, but at the same time, he is still 100% polar bear. He's incredibly strong. He's very, very powerful. So anything we do with them, we have to ask them to do it because we just can't go in there and, move them from one place to another. So it is really important that they understand us and that they trust what we're asking from them. And that just makes their life so much better as well when they feel comfortable and happy living with the people that they live with.
Yeah, interesting. That's really big. But listening to you talk, I see a lot of how similar, the fact that, polar bears might be a much different breed than dogs, but there's definitely some similar aspects there when it comes to caring for them, and mental stimulation as well as physical is just as important for a wild animal as it is for our domestic animals. So very interesting on that. So how many bears is there currently at the habitat?
We have 3 male bears that live with us. Ganok is who I just mentioned. He's 12 years old and he's 1,160 pounds. Henry is our youngest. Henry is 9 years old, and he is, what's his weight? 1040 right now. And Inukshuk is our oldest. Inukshuk is 19, and he's at about 1034 right now. So we weigh them weekly because their weight does fluctuate quite a lot throughout the year. So we do just need to make sure that we stay on top of their nutritional needs by making sure we weigh them frequently.
Wow. So is that like the average size bear? Like, would a male be, I'm assuming, bigger than the females, and how much does it differ there?
Correct. Yeah, there's quite a huge difference actually. So a male polar bear, a big male can be around 1,200 pounds. An average size female can be about 600 pounds, but she might go up to 700 or 800 pounds when she's packing on the way to hibernate. Not to hibernate, sorry, to den. Polar bears don't hibernate. If she's denning to have her cubs, then she's going to need to be as fat as she can. So they can get up around the 700-800 mark, but they're still, they're little.
Yeah, compared to the males, absolutely. So do you, is there often, or has there ever been any babies, polar bear babies at the habitat? Is that something that you guys do?
No, so we don't breed. Breeding in Canada has been recommended to stop within polar bears, and that's because there is no more space in human care for polar bears to live. We are the only place with space left. And so that means that any bears that are born into human care, if we were to breed, if we couldn't care for them anymore because we filled up, then we would have to send them overseas somewhere. And, we just can't guarantee their health and their welfare when they're not with us. So we concentrate on pretty much everything else that there is to do with polar bears and understanding them. Breeding is an important, but still just part of the whole puzzle that is polar bear conservation. And so we do a lot of education, including sessions like this. We do a lot of education, just connecting people with polar bears and helping them to understand them. And the challenges that they face in the wild, as well as conservation projects. So they can range from looking at what they eat and how that changes their internal systems, different ways of housing them to ensure that, they stay happy and healthy. And there's so many different things we need to learn about polar bears. And so we just try to kind of help out where we can, really.
That's amazing. I love that. So what is the average lifespan for a polar bear?
A polar bear in the wild, a male will live into their late teens-ish. Females, early 20s, they do live a little bit longer. In human care, though, with proper diet and vet care, early 30s is actually pretty common.
Wow, that's awesome.
The oldest bear in captivity, her name was Debbie. She lived at the Assiniboine Zoo in Winnipeg, and she passed away at the age of 42.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's amazing.
Debbie was pretty great.
Yeah, no kidding. So I've heard that, and this is a great question for you since you've worked with numerous different types of bears, but I've heard that polar bears have a more aggressive tendency. I've read somewhere that was the case. Can you kind of, give me more information on if that's accurate or not?
It's kind of my biggest pet peeve of polar bear myths. I'm going to call it myth. Polar bears are big and they're incredibly strong and they're incredibly powerful, but that doesn't mean that they're out there to eat everything they see. Bears in general, anyone that knows anything about bears, they're very inquisitive, especially black bears, for example. You'll find black bears trashing through garbage looking for food, sometimes just destroying things because they can. They're just very inquisitive creatures. They have these big claws, these big teeth. and they get themselves into trouble. So polar bears are really just big versions of other bears. So yeah, they're a lot more dangerous because they are so big. But, you know, people have been living in the Arctic for thousands and thousands of years with polar bears. If that was the case, that polar bears were out there attacking all these people, there'd be no people left. Like, we have no
Fair. Yeah.
So, you know, I think, you know, that it's definitely, you know, it's just more of a myth. I think that especially media has taught us that polar bears are just these big, terrible things up in the Arctic waiting to eat you. It's just not the case. Life in the Arctic is tough. So, you know, for a polar bear that may be fasting through the summer because there's no sea ice to hunt on, if you were to come across that bear and it's had a particularly bad summer and it's really thin and it's really hungry, absolutely, you could become a meal. But that is so, so rare. It just, yeah, it's very, very rare that these things happen. It's, you know, you're more likely to have an issue with a black bear or a brown bear. Most of you were around them. You know, so many people aren't up there with polar bears, and the people that do live with polar bears know how to live with them. So awesome. I'm definitely not going to say that they're very aggressive. Having said that, we never enter the enclosures with our bears because they still are polar bears. As I've just said, they're very strong.
Yep.
But they have personalities more complex than you'd ever imagine, and they can be very gentle and very inquisitive and very opposite of aggressive. You know, once you really get to know them and you build that bond with them, you still have to respect what they are, but it's really incredible to really learn what they are and who they are.
Yeah. Well, thank you for clarifying that, because I know that's definitely something that comes up when people hear about polar bears. And I think you're right. There's a lot of misconception and misunderstanding on what the animal is and who they are as an animal themselves. So yeah, thank you for that. So what do they typically eat? Like, I know if, you know, they're in the Arctic, we're looking at, you know, fish and whatnot, but can you kind of give us more information on the typical polar bear diet?
So polar bears in the wild actually hunt seals. Ringed seals are the main target for them. Seals are the only thing that have enough fat on them to be able to sustain a polar bear. Polar bears take huge amounts of energy to just even walk and survive. It's so cold, they always have to stay warm as well. So they need the energy from the seals. They can also eat, if a whale dies and washes up on the beach, they will eat those leftovers as well. But the seal fat specifically around the outside of that seal is really what they're after. In human care, though, they do typically get fed a lot of fish, higher fat fish like mackerel and herring is what our bears get. Our bears do also get seal meat and seal fat. They get some moose meat, moose bones, and there's also a special type of polar bear kibble that is made that's really high in protein, high in nutrients. So they get a little bit of that too. Okay. There is some research currently going on looking at the proportion of fat to protein that zoos have typically fed over the years. And there's a lot of research kind of pointing toward we need to really flip our ratio of making sure they're getting much more fat and less protein. And so that's just kind of how it works with animals in human care. As we learn things, we change our practices to make sure that we're always doing the best that we can for them.
Good. And you know, like anything else, I guess too, like even with ourselves, there's always differences and always changes that happen. So being on top of that obviously is very important. So, I mean, we talk about the polar bears being in the Arctic. Is that pretty much the only place that we could find polar bears, or where? Yeah, they're Arctic animals and that's where it ends. Okay.
Yes, yeah. Polar bears are Arctic, so they're on the top of the planet. Penguins are on the bottom.
Perfect.
Best thing to remember: polar bears and penguins do not hang out.
No, and I'm actually kind of glad that you said that, because not too long ago, you know, I love trivia questions and whatnot. And one of the questions was if penguins were part of the polar bear diet. And the answer was absolutely not, because they don't even live in the same area. So awesome.
Yeah, so polar bears live in the circumpolar Arctic. So that is, you know, the entire top of the Arctic. And so that includes Canada, Alaska, Greenland, Russia, and Norway. So Canada actually has 60% of the world's population of polar bears. So yeah, we have the most. That means we need to take the most care of them.
Sounds good. I love it. So like you mentioned earlier, here or in Cochrane, there are seasonal differences here where the temperatures get quite high. How do the polar bears adapt? What do you guys do to help them be more comfortable in those warmer seasons?
Yeah, so polar bears in the wild, as I said, they're so close to us. The weather is very similar. They will experience short periods of heat. So the way that they would deal with it in the wild is that they just move a whole lot less. They're not going to be running around. They're not going to be trying to overheat. Polar bears are so incredibly well insulated. So if they start to warm up, that's going to stay inside them. So it's important that they don't move around too much. They can also rest in like the shallow ocean water, help keep nice and cool. They will actually come a little bit ways on land as well, especially these southern bears that spend the summer on land. They can come inland and get in the shade of the trees. For our bears, though, we cool their building. So I'm in the bear holding building right now. So all of their rooms are just on the other side of the wall. And that building doesn't get much, about 15 degrees in the summertime. So we try to make sure the building's always nice and cool for them. They do have lots of trees, lots of natural shade. We have also got pools in every enclosure, as well as our lake, which is about 10 acres in size, and it's very deep, so it stays nice and cold for them.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so they have plenty of ways of staying cool. Having said that, they still choose to be out in the sun. Inukshuk especially
Really?
will lay out on the big flat rocks around the pool, next to the pool, not in it. And he will just kind of bask in the sun for a while and then probably come in and have a cool off. So there is part of them that does like the sun, and they also shed. They shed like crazy in the spring. So they lose their winter coat from underneath.
Okay.
And then that will obviously help them stay a little bit cooler as well. We do also lower their calorie intake for the summertime. So that helps them lose a little bit of that insulative weight too.
That's really interesting, because even myself, I have to admit that, you know, any videos and any pictures and whatnot, you always see the polar bears in snow and ice. That's what you see. So you never actually think of them living in an area where it does get warm. So to know that, and you know, I had no idea that they were, like I said earlier, that they lived so close to us. So it's very interesting to know that they do adapt to those warmer weathers, because I'm sure some people who, like me, don't understand that polar bears can live in the warmer temperatures probably were wondering, like, what in the world do they do when it's so warm? So so what do they like to do? Like, I had seen a video recently from the polar bear habitat. The bears were, I think it was one of our first really bad snowstorms, the polar bears were just rolling in the snow and digging their nose in there, and they just looked like they were having a jolly old time. What are some of the favorite activities that they really like to do?
So our bears definitely go through like stages of the day where they're crazy active, and then they'll crash and sleep for a while, and then they'll go back active again. So they kind of flip flop back between the eat, sleep, play kind of lifestyle. So yeah, especially this time of year, digging in the snow and kind of tunneling their faces in the snow is a real favorite. Henry this morning was swimming in the pool, but the pool has largely frozen over, and so he was in there breaking all the ice. Interacting with each other is a very big thing for them as well. That is a seasonal thing. So some parts of the year they want nothing to do with each other. Other times they're very social. And then, you know, taking part in sessions with us, they seem to really enjoy as well. So if that's just feeding, or maybe we're providing new toys or doing some behavioral training with them. So I don't know, it's a typical day for a polar bear. I guess there kind of isn't one.
No.
Yeah, you know, they do what they wish. They somewhat have, you know, patterns of when they're active and when they're sleeping. But then, you know, some days I'll say to someone that like, oh, they're always really active in the morning, and they'll sleep right through until 1 o'clock. So it's they're really, you know, they're just free to do what they want. You know, yeah, it's up to them what they want to do in their day. If they want to sleep the whole day, then that's fine.
Yeah. And you mentioned in there that you do some behavioral training and whatnot. Can you tell us a little bit of what type of things that you do with them when it comes to
pretty much all of our behavioral training is either to assist us in just moving them around throughout the day and giving them access to different places, or for veterinary purposes. So just the same as, you know, you might train your dog to sit and not go running outside the door when you open the door. We actually ask our bears to sit before we open a door as well. So
interesting.
That just kind of helps things run a bit smoother. They do also know direction. So if we say, you know, shift that way, they'll go that way. So like they do know their directions. And other things, so they show us different parts of their bodies. So we can ask them to show us the bottoms of their feet, because because they're on such natural substrate, they do have lots of, trees and sticks and things like that. So we just need to make sure that the bottom of their feet are still looking healthy, inside their mouths. So we can look at their teeth and their cheeks. They can show us like inside their mouths. They can stand on all fours. They can just sit down. They'll lay flat down. Henry will actually show us his back feet. When he sits down, he'll kind of put his back feet forward and show us the bottom of his back feet. They can show us the different sides of their heads so we can inspect their heads and necks.
Wow.
So that's just kind of the really basic things, the everyday things. They can also give blood voluntarily. So we have a big special training crate that they come into. They've always got the ability to leave. None of these sessions they can't ever get out of. They can always leave whenever they want, but they'll lay down. They'll put their paw in this little extension bit, which is safe for us to access their paw, and then we can take blood from their front paws. They will take their vaccines voluntarily. They just lean on the side, and then we poke their vaccines in. They do so much.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's really impressive. It's you say it's simple, basic things, but I mean, from a trainer point of view, those things take time to train. And how do you get a bear to listen, or do you use treats like we would with dog training? Same idea.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's
Positive reinforcement.
There's generally always food involved. We can use higher reinforcements is what we call them. So if we were training with their regular diet and we were just doing regular training, then they'd be fine with that. But let's say we were trying to train something new that might be a bit more challenging, we'd make sure that we had something really high reinforcing. So for them, that can be maple syrup is a favorite. Lard, straight lard, we'll break chunks of that off for them. Seal fat, so anything that they find really valuable, it helps it to really kind of concrete in their minds that like that, hey, that was worth doing. I got a really good thing for that. So,
yes. So I love that. I love the similarity between that and dog training. It's super interesting. So let's talk a little bit about the habitat itself. Is it open now to the public? Can people, It has been opened? Good. And what, so do people just show up? Is there appointments they have to make? And what can they expect when they come to the habitat?
Yeah, so we are open 7 days a week, 10 till 4. In the summertime, that extends from 9 till 5. So when you visit the habitat, you don't need to pre-book. You just come into the Welcome Center and you pay on your way in. We do recommend getting a yearly membership as well, so then you can come and go as much as you want throughout the year. Because the facility changes so much throughout the year with all the snow and the summer and all that, as well as the bear's behavior changes so much. It is very cool to come back a few times to see the difference in them. And so when you come here, we do recommend that you allow yourself a few hours to kind of walk around, experience the bears, experience the other things there are to do here. Because the bears are free to live their life as they choose, that doesn't always mean they're going to be up running around doing something really exciting. Sometimes they might just be sleeping. Sometimes they might be hanging around in a place that isn't immediately visible. So it is important that, if you really want to see the bears, make sure you give yourself some time. We do have a daily keeper talk on, and so you can come and hear a keeper talk. If you do see the keepers walking around, then feel free to come up and have a chat with us as well. We love nothing more than talking polar bears. So there's always something to talk about. We do also have a gift shop on site, so if you do want to grab your polar bear things. And we do just kind of on the sides as well. We have a snowmobile museum and a heritage village. The heritage village is kind of closed in the winter because it gets snowed in, but in the summertime, it's pretty popular. So we have a couple of other things to do as well as the bears.
Great. And so I know for a while the habitat had, there was a pool that people were able to go into. Is that still something that is available? Is that still something that is there for guests to interact more with the bears, or is that gone now?
Yeah, so due to COVID, always COVID, it was shut down for a couple of years. So it's open in the summertime, and it just allows you to be in like a little paddle pool on the opposite side of the glass to the bears. So it's similar to being inside the viewers building, but you're just in water instead. We're hoping maybe we can open it this year. We'll just have to see how things go. Yeah, it's one of those things. We got to wait and see what restrictions say. But yeah, do keep up with us on Facebook and on our website. We will make sure to update everyone on any kind of changes and things that are coming up.
Sounds good. And what I'll do is I'll make sure to put the website and any contact information in the comments, so then people will know how to get a hold of you, or where to go if they want to come visit. So is there anything else you'd like to share about polar bears, or anything else about the habitat that you feel would be good for the viewers to know or hear about?
I think, we covered a lot of it. The main thing is, it's just, we're a small place, but, we have a lot to offer. So we just really hope that maybe if you haven't been before, make sure to come and check things out. We have got some special things happening today for Polar Bear Day. And so if, you want to come down and check things out, there will be a few extra things happening, some activities. But yeah, we're open year round, 363 days a year. So yeah, it's definitely worth coming to visit and learn about polar bears. If you are looking to support us as well, we do have a donation link on our website. We do have a very limited budget. And so, yeah, any kind of donations, one time, monthly, just means a lot to us. So yeah, on our website as well, we do have live cameras. And so you can watch what the bears are up to throughout the day.
Nice.
It's going to be really fun. Again, like when you come and visit, sometimes you may not see them on the cameras because they're off doing their own thing. But we do our best to make sure that we, keep the cameras on them so you can watch them for free at home. Yeah, so check out our website. We do have a Facebook and Instagram, all Cochrane Polar Bear Habitat. So yeah, lots of places to keep in touch with us.
Sounds good. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for agreeing to do this with me. You had tons of information. I definitely learned a thing or two, so I'm sure that our viewers did as well. So yes, today is International Polar Bear Day. So let's learn as much as we can about polar bears, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. As I say, I love talking polar bears.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Amy. And hopefully we'll see each other soon. I definitely hope to be able to make it to the polar bear habitat and see the bears myself with my kids. I'm sure they would love it too.
Absolutely. You're welcome anytime.
All right. Thanks a lot, Amy. And we'll hopefully talk soon.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.